So likely those hoops are actually of genuine letters for Voynich. So you just change it up a bit with the letter to make it a bit different, like adding an accent mark to Latin letters. And it's likely of Hungarian text. Just like Rohonc, it's a Hungarian text for a weird mixed group of religions. I mean, of some sort of Islamic origin, evolving from many other ancient languages that started out in medieval Hungary. And it turns out Voynich likely is from Hungary as well. Meaning they could be, they could genuinely be somewhat together. Because I said something that said, like, maybe they're not together because of how the letters work, but it's slightly just a simpler version of phonetics. And if it's a simple version, I mean. And if it's simpler, that means that some of the letters on here where they were repeating sounds, just like how there's a few Hebrew things in there, and Hebrew does have a few repeating sounds. Voynich is a simpler version of that, where it's just only a single letter can have that sound. And they say 150,000 versions, like different letters. That's just the different orientations. Like they're counting all the different lengths of a letter. Like if you have a letter that's like some letters could be like this, and then another one that looks exactly like that, except this part is like yeah, that's just different lengths. Same letter though. So they can be connected genuinely. I've also found way more things, and I've been doing a thing where I was trying to see sounds letters can possibly be, and I started to realize that if I was able to cross out some things because of other letters with that sound, I was able to narrow sounds down better, and I could put genuine things. Like this thing originally thought was a W was actually likely a G sound. The thing that I kept thinking was an M was likely an S because of the somic. And this X thing could have possibly been an S, but it was X. However, I am seeing a lot of repeating sounds, like two Hebrew a weird hieroglyph, meaning to give, pronounced D, and a Hebrew letter that could have either been from a Hebrew T or a Hebrew M, just for me to cross out that M, because there's another Hebrew M. But then I discovered a mu from Greek, which makes the M sound as well. So maybe there are repeating things. However, crossing out still makes sense because I don't think there's going to be multiple sounds. However, at the same time it does make sense because I don't know if I'm crossing out the right things now. I'm pretty much making an assumption of sound with a catalog of letters. I've been thinking about this, two letters I've been paying attention to the most was this one, and this one. This one caught my eye since the very beginning, and I don't know what it could possibly be. Nothing looks like it at all. Meanwhile, this one is a Voynich letter that I talked about a while back. And this kind of looks like a theta from Greek. However, it's pointed up and not to the sides. Except, Greek put only one line despite there being two lines from the original letter they got it from. Meaning they could have done the same thing and pointed in a different direction. So, I'd say that one is TH. That one is indefinitely TH. However, I don't know about any of the other letters. I was able to find some similarities between other languages, including Voynich, however not really able to find sounds. I was able to figure out that I just think that this one letter that looks like a man with a shield is a man with a shield, since they said it's likely somewhat ideographic, like proto-Semitic. Somewhere over here. Man with a shield. Man with the shield I wrote again, saying it's likely of. Past the Voynich row, we go to the ideographic row, a man in a shield. Man with a shield. It's likely of that. That's what it originally meant. I put different rows showing the actual Rohonc letter of Voynich letter row for if I could figure out what it evolved to be, and then 2 extra rows of ideographic or extras, meaning the rows of where the letters evolved from. So the ideographic is images they could have originated from, and then the other row of extra things are other languages they could have evolved from. What I'm seeing here is that it's mostly Hebrew. There's mostly Hebrew things they evolved from, but there are a few Latin things. They have a calligraphy V, which was actually Old English, not Latin, but they do have a Latin N and a Greek pi in here. Like I said, there's also the D hieroglyph, meaning to give. There is how many things are wrote to be Hebrew? 1, an M, 2, a T or a M, 3, a whole word, kn, 2 N's, Hebrew, k, but with a different letter, and Hebrew, looks like an I, the letter I. It makes the O sound. It's like a mix between ah and O. So, yeah, there's that. And I keep thinking about church acrylic when I see some of these things, but I don't think that's something that would have anything to do with this whatsoever. I also kept thinking to myself, this letter looks like an H. Probably not an H, doesn't evolve the same way. It might be an H. Fact. It looks like a slightly fancy handwriting with H. Yeah, they wrote it like that in Old English sometimes. So maybe it is the letter H. I will actually show that. Which before I said it's likely of this symbol that keeps showing up, but with an iodified touch, like iodified, old acrylic iodified letters, where they just put an iota and then put a hyphen and then the other letter it's connected to. This isn't iota, it's just 2 of this exact thing. Kind of like how this thing is just 2 of the same letters stacked on each other. I actually recently discovered there's a few of those tail Voynich letters actually don't have tails at all and could just be lines by each other. Just like how in Rohonc they have the tails, but also possible for them not to have tails. And they even had a tail that wasn't connected properly, and it was just in the middle of the line in Voynich. They have that as well. The tail pointed the other way from Voynich because they flip. Here's how it's written in Voynich compared to Rohonc. And then I discovered Rohonc has it without the tail. Voynich has a few without the tail. And they vary in amounts all the time. This one has the tail in the middle of the line. Voynich has done that as well. I've also found the floor to actually be in one of the pages. I also... Oh, I wrote this one twice. I also do think that this one letter that most would say is a T, but there was an experiment done to show Mayan letters weren't in any way influenced by other languages by getting random people to draw a random alphabet that means nothing at all. And there was a lot of X's, there was a lot of T's, meaning that those X's and T's in Mayan were purely coincidental because they're very common things. I think that this T is not a T at all, because Rohonc was very religious. I think this T right here was supposed to be a crucifix letter. A letter based off the crucifix, which I wrote on here, not as a T. I wrote it in these row things as being a crucifix. I wrote that somewhere. Yeah, it's the very last one. Christ. I wrote that. Now, I don't think I'll get very far with figuring these things out. I'm thinking of not actually doing the whole thing. I'm thinking of giving up, because I don't think I can finish the whole thing. I'll see how far I can get before I do that. But I don't know if we're... Shit. I think I've just found something. This letter looks like a plant. There we go. This letter looks like a plant. What I'm trying to say is they look like plants in the ancient Egyptian hieroglyph numeral system. There's a lot of things for different things. Like there's a swirl in the numeral system. They have a lot of things that look like that. This is all over the place in many different ways. I feel like hieroglyphs can have something to do with each other, and that means the D of hieroglyphs does make sense. Somehow. It's somewhat near the area. How did Greeks and Romans get to Egypt? Same way the Rohoncs did, I guess. Yeah. This one especially is what got me to realize that looks like the 100 in Egyptian. Wait, 100? Looks like 1,000 in ancient Egyptian. There's also this letter that keeps showing up in actual codex pages. Well, I discovered there's a version of that that doesn't even have the dotted circle around it. It's just the sideways S, which can be turned into an arrow or a simpler arrow. Weird shovel shows up right side up without a handle, like a lollipop. This is very weird, kind of overwhelming. I'm just going to I might every once in a while try and go back onto figuring this stuff out, but for now, I will finish. And I'm going to show you the whole paper. The quality's good, because I can't see it right now. Let me actually check. So, camera. You are not gonna see that thing. That whole thing. You can get an idea, right? I showed the whole thing in sections, I guess, right there. I've shown it a few more times. You can look at those too. But, For now, I'm getting off.